Hello everybody, welcome back to another very exciting video. What you see in front of you are all 5 Age of the Primes Combaticons. So similar to my Lyokaiser video, I want to make a video going over each member and the team as a whole, their alt modes, their robot modes, and then obviously the main event, the combined mode of Bruticus. Starting with the team, I just got my Swindle a little bit early. He's the most recent one, but let's start with the first one, the one that came out very long ago. Let's start with Vortex. So Vortex released in Age of the Primes Wave 2 of 2025. So I've had him for quite some time and it really impressed me. He's quite a bit different than the original Combiner Wars Vortex. And I just love his head sculpt. His head sculpt is so Sunbow accurate. Just compared to what I was used to with all the Combiner Wars figures being the same generic figure, this was so refreshing to see. Even like his plastic has some nice swirls in it, some nice metallic. He does have quite a bit of arm kibble, but I really don't think it's the end of the world. Lots of accessories. He came with little guns, his main gun, and you can even give him his little ponytail if you want. So this was just a great figure. The articulation isn't really that hindered by the arm. It is kind of ugly, but some sacrifices have to be made, and Vortex really blew me away. It was a really strong start to the Combaticons. Then, in Age of the Primes 2026, Brawl was the second member I got, and he's a lot of fun. So with these new combiners, like the Constructicons, obviously Bruticus, they're doing Voyager class members that really are more like deluxe sized, deluxe scaled, but at the Voyager price point. And once you have them in hand, they are a little bit heftier than your standard deluxe. Like comparing Vortex to Brawl, Brawl does have some more heft to him. So the reason why they are more money is because they have to do a bit more to support Bruticus. Bruticus's frame is more different than Menasor, different than Superions. So these guys end up having to do more than what the leg bots on those two are doing. In terms of robot mode, again, so much better than the Combiner Wars version. The Combiner Wars version was a really rough figure. If you had any version of the deluxe Combiner Wars tank, it was pretty bad, especially in the torso area. This fixes it. He's got really tight hinges in the shoulders. You can see there's a bit of a swivel there, which is a hint to the combined mode, but just great face sculpt. The one complaint I have is that these guns, well, they're going to stick now, but sometimes they can be kind of loose. I was a big fan of Brawl, and I felt like he was actually worth the Voyager price point, and it makes me excited for the upcoming Guzzle. Now, the next one was Blastoff. If you had Combiner Wars Blastoff, you know that he was a jet at first, and then there's a lot of fan backlash. Then they got the Takara Tomy Blastoff mold, or did their own little partial to make a Blastoff, which was actually a space shuttle. It was a whole thing when it first came out. So getting a Blastoff right off the bat that was G1 accurate and turned into a shuttle was great. I love the giant Decepticon symbol here. I love that they gave him a completely cartoon accurate face where the visor isn't painted, but his little third eye is painted. So I thought that was a really fun touch. Again, he's got really good articulation, just like Vortex. He's quite a bit similar to Vortex because they do transform the same way. The one complaint I have is his arms look really bad. He doesn't have kibble hanging off of them like Vortex, but like that is a poor excuse for a hand. And it just kind of looks like nothing if he's posed any other way. That was one thing that I wasn't crazy about on him, but obviously he comes with his 2 guns. And other than my minor nitpicks over his forearms, he was actually a pretty good figure. Most recently, I was able to get Swindle. Just in terms of me messing with him in robot mode is pretty disappointing. So I got him out of the box and I was expecting him to be like Brawl, a little bit bigger than the others, a little bit heftier, doing a little bit more than everybody else, but not at all. Brawl is noticeably bigger than Swindle, which is kind of crazy to me because they're both going to become legs, but like I'll stand them side by side and Brawl is a little bit taller by like a good head, half a head or so. And Swindle feels lighter. He feels heavier than a deluxe, just barely heavier. Also his colors, I felt that these colors were a little bit too bright for Swindle. The back here is so hollow. I thought maybe the gun his cannon would fold up back there, but there was no mention of it in the instructions. and it's just a really, really hollow back half. And I thought maybe his arm kibble could fold up a little bit more too, but it can't, and that's just how it's supposed to stay. So right out of the box, he was a little bit disappointing. Again, better than the Combiner Wars though. Like, I like how he's given his fusion cannon that he had in the cartoon, very cartoon accurate robot mode. I love how the little pinholes here look like a Jeep, and they have the grill here to look like the Jeep grill and the Jeep front end. So I thought that was really clever. I like the metallic windshield. I like his head sculpt a lot. Pretty good figure, but just a little bit disappointing compared to the rest of the team. The Commander Onslaught. Now, I gave him Swindle's gun because he doesn't come with an individual weapon, which I found so disappointing. So this is Swindle's trailer that can turn into Bruticus's cannon. You can plug it onto Swindle, but I just felt that it was too much. This does add to the Voyager price point, but this and this at a Voyager price point doesn't feel right. Like, Brawl has more heft, and he's a little bit bigger, so I can justify it. But for Swindle, it's a little harder to swallow at the Voyager price point. But again, simple, big gun for Bruticus. We'll get into that later. Onslaught did not come with a gun to hold. I didn't like that. He comes with, well, these are part of his alt mode. His cannon's up top. And then there's the big gun that's part of Bruticus and part of the turret mode. But I felt that at a commander class budget, you couldn't throw in one gun for Onslaught to hold, so you can pose them all with like their weapons. So you can't do that. You have to either use Bruticus's cannon or get a weapon out of some other figure you have. Thought that was a little disappointing, especially at the commander class budget. This is a really great Onslaught. I had G1 Onslaught as a kid, so getting this one was really nice because the Combiner Wars one was very different than G1. This is just straight G1 Onslaught. One thing, the wheels on the forearms aren't accurate to G1. He's got the 2 wheels, but that's okay. He's just a good commander class figure. If you have Motor Master, if you have Silverbolt, you already know what you're getting. I'm just a huge fan of his design and his colors. So this one is a win for me. Even just robot mode, it looks so good. And as a team, they look really, really good together. Oh, even though Brawl fell over. I think Swindle throws it off a little bit just because his yellow is so bright. I don't know, maybe he's a little chunkier than the others, but it kind of works into his character. Now we will bring in the Combiner frame in its turret configuration. So with all these new Commander class figures and teams, the Combiner frame always turns into something, usually like an armament. Silverbolts could be incorporated into his jet mode to give him like a super jet mode. And Menosaur's was obviously his trailer. This one is Onslaught's trailer, but it can also become a pretty big turret. Like when I saw it in photos, I didn't think it was that big, but in robot mode, when you see them next to it in robot mode, it looks pretty cool. You can get Onslaught to hold on to these pegs here, and you can have the whole team hanging out. It's pretty cool. It's actually a pretty fun play feature. Obviously not what you buy all these figures for, but it's just a cool thing you can do. I have them all configured into their alt modes. This is going to be easier to combine them into Bruticus for pretty much everybody except for Onslaught. So let's start with the same order. Now, I really liked Vortex's robot mode, and his helicopter mode leaves a little bit to be desired. Like, it is very, very flat. The only landing gear he has is from the back of his head, and he's got some molded landing gear right here. But it really doesn't do much, and just looks kind of like he's missing the bottom part of the helicopter, which is kind of funny. But he's just meant to kind of plug onto Bruticus's arm, so I give it the pass. So not the best helicopter mode. I think I liked the Combiner Wars helicopter mode a little bit more, but still fun, still very swooshable, and propellers spin all over. It kind of blew my mind transforming the Voyagers, because I've transformed Vortex once before, but the rest of the members I wanted to wait until I did this video. And Brawl has a really unique transformation. Like, you kind of take the legs apart and the treads fold all the way out and then hinge back up, and it was actually a really clever transformation. As you can see his turret rotates all around. All of his guns are able to stick onto the turret. You can kind of mess around with it, put them wherever you'd like. I just wanted to make it accurate to G1 and the G1 toy. So we have his little gun, his turret, and then his two upper guns. Really fun transformation on him. I really like that. Then on to Blast Off, the space shuttle. The purple at the front of the shuttle really, really pops. And like I said before, I love that giant Decepticon symbol. It just looks so evil. And I think I like this guy more than the Combiner Wars version. Like, everything folds up so neat, and there's like no gaps or anything really. There is no landing gear. Transformation step. Blast Off actually does have landing gear. I did not fold that out. That's my bad. Swindle, who I have him here with his little trailer. This one also had a pretty unique transformation. Like, the Voyagers really had cool transformation schemes of how they all came together. And I really liked the trick of the opposite windshield. So you see in robot mode, that's his robot mode windshield. And then his alt mode windshield is the reverse side of that. So I thought that was kind of a cool trick. It was cool how these moved around. But yeah, G1 Accurate Swindle with a trailer. Everybody gets trailers now. And then on to the boss. And this one was fun. So if you had G1 Onslaught, his alt mode was just a truck with a giant trailer. And this one delivered on that as well. So he has his turret placement. Can't really angle it up, which is a little lame. And then he's got the truck, the super long trailer that you can put other members on just for more playability. And then the trailer actually disconnects here. The G1 didn't do this. The G1 didn't separate the two, which I think it makes more sense to separate the two than just have one giant legs for Onslaught. So I really like how they did this. And it also got me wondering, once they get around to doing the Protectobots, I'm really interested to see how they do a hotspot where the front of the fire engine becomes hotspot and then his trailer becomes the frame. So I think that will be really, really cool to see once they get around to doing the Protectobots. But for his truck mode, it's just kind of like a generic military truck. My one complaint when we first saw the initial images was that the truck looked kind of smushed, like kind of pancaked. It is, like the windows are really stubby, but I think it's a pretty cool looking truck overall. And with the trailer, it just kind of adds to that giant military truck, which I think actually looks pretty cool. I think it looks good. But I'm a fan of the G1 version, so maybe I'm a little biased. But there you have all of the Combaticons in their vehicle modes. So now we'll get to the best part. My Blast Off doesn't want to crack in half, and I don't want to break it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it just won't crack in half. And now what everybody has been waiting for. We have Bruticus here in all of his glory. So it was a fun transformation. The legs did a lot more than what I was expecting. And in person, he looks so good. I don't know if you guys remember, but when there were initial pictures, he looked a little bit stubby. Like, his legs looked a little short, torso looked too long. But in person, he looks really, really good. He's got an amazing head sculpt. I love the cartoon accurate chest. That was something the Combiner Wars version didn't have. And this one looks so good. And the colors pop. I still think Swindle is a little bright. But other than that, like, he looks so good. One thing that threw me off was the double barrels just up here. I wasn't expecting that. But I think it still looks pretty good. And then during transformation, the arms did not want to separate. So Blast Off, Vortex really didn't want to separate. And I ended up doing them, separating them separately and then plugging them on. I think I had that issue on one of the frame combiners before, but it was no big deal. And then for his cannon, I plugged it onto there. And the leg bots, I found that the instructions were actually wrong for Swindle. They showed these parts of the Jeep facing downwards when you combine them, but you actually can't do that. It locks in right there with the Jeep parts facing outwards, not down. I really like how all Brawl's weapons kind of plug onto the back, as well as Swindle's. They plug on there. And really, he's just a really clean figure. I didn't see a lot of spots for Blast Off and Vortex's weapons, so I just stuck Vortex is on there. And I've seen some fan modes for a more accurate configuration for Vortex, so I might try those out later. But this is just everything according to the instructions so far. And I think it looks really, really good. I love his head sculpt too. And then just for fun, we're gonna throw Studio Series 86 Shockwave onto his shoulder because I want to see what this fusion cannon looks like. And then here he is with his little fusion cannon, and I think he looks pretty funny. It's cool that they included that. It's just a nice little bonus. I liked how Onslaught was a little bit shorter than Optimus, but he wasn't that small. And then you can bring in a Starscream, and they look so cool. Especially Starscream. Let's get Optimus out of here. And that's so good. And then here you can see the two shoulder cannon bros just hanging out. They're pretty much exactly the same size, and they both look so good. These are the two 2026 combiners. So if you ever wondered how they both look together with their shoulder cannons, now you know. And then if you decided not to spring for the HasLab, here's how he looks next to Devastator. Devastator's a little bit bigger. Devastator's a bit larger than all the frame combiners, but I think that makes sense. Like, he's a 6-member versus a 5-member, and they look really, really good together. Way closer than Combiner Wars ever got for scale. And then next to last year's frame combiner, you can see the differences. Bruticus is actually a little bit bigger and bulkier due to his legs. So obviously with Superion and Motormaster, the deluxes just peg onto the back like so. So they don't really do as much work. That's why they could be deluxes. Now they have to be Voyagers, and they look good. They look really good together. Bruticus is a little bigger. I kind of like that. So this has been my video on Transformers Age of the Primes Bruticus. I would recommend him. I'm a huge fan of Transformers combiners in general, and Bruticus is just another win from what's been basically a modern Combiner Wars in the past couple of years. What started with Menasor, then we got Superion, Devastator, Lyle Kaiser, and now Bruticus. They've all been winners in my opinion. They've all been significantly better than their Combiner Wars versions. The only downside is if you're really into the Scramble City, you can't get that from these guys. So in that aspect, the Combiner Wars wins, but for cartoon accuracy, posability, stability, all of the above, these frame combiners just keep winning. And I know there's a pretty big discourse in the fandom about them. I think it's gotten a little bit better. I've been a huge fan of them. And bring on Defensor. I really, really want to see how they tackle Defensor, because I think he's my favorite of the original combiners. And then out of all of these members, Swindle did feel a little bit overpriced for the Voyager price point. I know he comes with the gun, but I just wish there was a little bit extra in there. And then Brawl was actually pretty good. Fun transformation. Pretty hefty Voyager. And then the deluxes are deluxes. They're okay. There's some arm kibble, and the arms weren't perfect on the robot modes. But overall, they come together really well. If you have to just get one of the Combaticons, for me, it's a toss-up between Brawl and Onslaught. If you can only afford a deluxe, I'd say get Vortex over Blastoff. I just had a little bit more fun with Vortex's robot mode. Voyager's Brawl is the better Voyager, and can't go wrong with Onslaught, the Commander. So with this, I'm expecting a Ruination repaint, and hopefully a Battle Gaia repaint. Maybe New Legends will give us a Battle Gaia off of these molds, but they just look so good. And if you guys are experiencing Age of the Primes Bruticus as well, comment down below your thoughts and if you like the figure. Thank you for watching.